So, I'm Dr. Sarita, and I'd like to talk with you about the past and how I got to making these videos. So, it starts with some regifting. My mother is a terrible regifter. She will regift anything you give her. And I've had perfume regifted to me a year later with the box missing. I've had a tea set that I bought literally regifted right in front of me to a cousin. So the last straw with this regifting happened when my sister and I had bought my mother a birthday flipbook card, and we put her name on the flipbook card and gave it to my mother in June. A month had passed, and it's July. My mother crossed off her name and put my sister's name on the flipbook birthday card and gave it back to her. And my sister was very upset and said, yeah, it's just insulting. I come over with an ice cream birthday cake that's melting in the sun because there's no place to put it in the freezer. And then I find, and everyone's upset. My mother's upset. She says, I'll regift whatever I want. This is my heritage. I'm going to regift whatever I want. And there was a $50 gift card in there. And this is terrible. And she's crying. My sister left to go to a restaurant where a close friend of hers worked, and I followed her with my ice cream melting birthday cake, and we talked, and we said it's obvious, we need to stop giving things to our mother because she doesn't value these things. She's giving them back to us. So let's give her experiences like tickets to shows, or let's redevelop old home movies, because there were a lot of Super 8 home movies that my great-grandfather had made, in their closets. So I made home movies. I developed the home movies, and these showed my great-grandparents in the 1950s, in their 50s, walking around looking like models. They looked so beautiful. They were going up and down steps in Florida. They had little heels on. They had little skirts. They had little suits on. They looked like movie stars. They were healthy. And my great-grandparents had a high school education. And then fast forward to me in my 50s during 2020, I looked like hell. And I was thinking I was eating a healthy diet. I remember thinking I'm vegetarian and fish. I eat mostly vegetables and rice and pasta and vegetables, and I eat low fat. And how come I'm sick and fat and I have an MD and an MPH? Were these degrees or degrees? Because I look worse than my great-grandparents. And something resonated within me, and I remembered my great-grandfather saying, grease is goodness, and if you eat too much bread and potatoes, you'll get fat and sick. And he must have said this around 1970. So I remember this drumbeat in my childhood of my mother, who was going to college, saying how stupid these people are. They're so uneducated. They're eating butter. They're eating eggs. They're eating meat. They're going to die. They're so stupid. They're uneducated. We would watch public television. Vivian Vance from the I Love Lucy show was on public television taking the skin off the chicken. And she said, this is killing us. The skin on the chicken is killing us. And I remember thinking, I really like the skin on the chicken. Well, it was saturated fat, and that's what my brain needed. It was good. It was a good thing. But it was demonized, and that was my job, to get paper towels and take the skin off the chicken. And the chicken never tasted as good. And my great-grandparents and my grandmother made chicken with the skin on it. So basically, it all boils down to what my great-grandfather said. Grease is goodness. Saturated fat is goodness. And if you eat too much bread and potatoes, you will get fat and sick. He was a grocer for 50 years. He knew this in 1970, and we had to be experimented on, and I was a guinea pig in the low-fat experiment, and I was fat, sick, and getting diabetes. So he knew this because he saw people during the Depression likely not be able to afford meat or dairy and just have bread and potatoes, and he saw them get fat and sick. And I'm not asking you to believe in what I'm doing, that it's something new. It's not about, there's some study that this is the way to eat. Why don't we just go back in time to a time before my profession, the physicians, wrecked our ancestral diets? Why don't we just go back in time, look at old cookbooks? It's in our heritage. Nobody's ancestral diet was bad because it had grease, it had saturated fat, it had real food, and really, this is the gaslight, is that we were told that saturated fat was bad, when in fact we need it for our brain health, we need it for our mood, we need it for it's the building block of every cell in our body, is saturated fat, is cholesterol. So I'm not asking you, and again, I never really wanted to go into medicine. I was told to do this. My parents said, we are not with the wealth for you to go into archaeology, or English. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an archaeologist or an English major. Well, an archaeologist when I was about 5 years old, or then I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to be an English major. Well, yeah, good luck with that. Now you need to do something to make money. And I've been blessed. Thank you, medicine. I've been blessed. But the price was my health. The price of this degree was my health. And here I am, the very person that people are asking about diet. My ancestral wisdom was blotted out by so many things that as I look back now, I thought I was doing for health, but I was really doing this to sell snack foods. Snacking is the new smoking, not so much sitting, but snacking. Our ancestors, my great-grandparents were wearing little high heels. They danced. They walked to get the newspaper. They walked dogs, but they were not going to country clubs and busting their butt exercising. I don't want to do that either. I'm going to go and exercise a little bit. I love to walk. I love to dance. I love to swim, but I don't have time for that. Neither did they. And I think the key is just in old cookbooks. Get out old cookbooks. Look at what your family's ancestral recipes were. And they had butter, they had fat, and there's nothing wrong with that. Old is gold. If this is a fat that was produced before the advent of Crisco, before all these margarines and all this nonsense. I had a patient tell me too, I didn't realize this, margarine was a food popularized in the Depression because people couldn't afford butter. And then they sell it as a health food in the 1970s. So again, back to the future. There's nothing wrong with you or me. It's what we've been through. And it's very hard to get that gaslighting out of your head. It was very hard for me to realize, avocados, chicken with the skin on it, meat with the fat on it, whole fat dairy. For me, these things are saving my life. And I was taught these are the very things that are going to make me fat and sick. But my great-grandfather knew this. And, again, what has gone on in our diet? Oh, eat heart-healthy whole grains. That is killing us. So again, it's back to the future. I'm making these videos because I know people are suffering, and I was suffering. And it's, again, rediscovering the good. I can coat the world with leather, I can wear shoes. I can't stop the heat here in Northern California, but I can put on a hat. And I really appreciate your time and attention. And I hope this has given you some hope in your weight loss journey, and hope to see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.